So today we are talking about Robin, one of my favorite Straw Hats, because they all are, and one that is very well loved for good reason. She deserves it. Robin is a really interesting character to me for many reasons that I will attempt to dig into in this video, but one of the really interesting things to me about her is that from the jump, from the moment we meet her, she establishes herself as such a significant character to the series, to the world, and to us as readers in connecting her to the overarching goal of the series. It's through her that we're introduced to the structure of the 7 warlords, the concept of the poneglyphs and being able to translate them, but also the ancient weapons, the secret history of the Void Century, the conflict of the world government as an institution, and really she's sort of the bridge into opening us up into how wide and connected this world is. Previously, we've had a lot of small adventures and small islands. Through the introduction of Robin, we get the tangibility of our goal as well as a clear path on how to start truly pursuing it. So knowing all that and seeing what she went through and her own perspective of herself and her identity and her worth when she is truly one of the most significant people in the entire story is really devastating. Robin as a child had a million signifiers that her life was not important. She had no father, and her mother wasn't in her life because she had this greater goal that she was pursuing. She lived with cold, abusive family members that didn't want her in their life. She was ostracized and hated by the other children because of her devil fruit. And even the small group of people that embraced her and loved her and celebrated her were very quickly ripped from her. Even these few people that saw value in her and treated her as if she had true value were the enemies. They were to the world, to the government. They were deemed wrong in every sense of the world and needing extermination. They were wiped off the map, and everything that they valued and believed in, everything that Robin too valued and believed in, were removed. And at such a young, delicate age, this child was forced to watch everyone she loved, including her absent mother, who she had back in her life for just a moment. She had to watch them all die right in front of her. Both her mother's and Saul's last words to her were so important because of the emphasis on her value and that she does deserve to find something and someone in this life that sees that value. And that's exactly what she did. She sought out people to help her, living under the assumption that she did have some sort of value in this world. But the world proved to her that they didn't believe that. A monetary reward was more important to them than this child's life. On top of all that, on top of the daily reminders by individuals that she did not have value, she also had a massive target on her back, the government deeming her an enemy because her very existence, the knowledge that she held, was a threat to them. And people responded to that threat. They accepted the fate of this child and sent a clear signal to her in doing that. Her life was constantly at risk, and the only choice of survival that she had was to team up with people who would take her, and they were the only ones. Aokiji, when he met with the Straw Hats for the first time, he told them that they were taking a huge risk by trusting Robin. She used people and she left them, and tragedy and misfortune struck everyone that allowed her in their circle. And he was right. He was telling the truth. She used people because that's the only way she could survive. Tragedy did befall anyone that tried to take her into their ranks, But that wasn't her fault. That was the world government. And when she first demanded her place with the Straw Hats, it was once again, as always, a tool of survival, because that's what life was for her. But regardless of all these things and all the ways that she's had to use to survive, even when she was working with the enemy, doing horrible things, we can't just sweep that under the rug. She was one of the baddies. Even as she was working as an enemy, you could still see a thread of goodness in her, a want to help people that she genuinely deemed as decent people. We saw her helping Luffy multiple times, and even though she was in Crocodile's inner circle, she still wasn't loyal to him because she didn't believe in what he was doing. But the scene after Crocodile injured her and she was dying in front of the poneglyph and realized that after everything she had done, after everything that she had worked for, teaming up with people that she didn't even believe in their mission, that it was not even the poneglyph that she was looking for. That scene is so desperately sad to me because, again, life had proven to her that her life was worthless. She was an enemy to everyone. Even the team that she had joined that were willing to take her on, she would betray them without any thought, and they would betray her without any thought. It wasn't an akama, it wasn't a family, it was a convenience for each of them where they could use each other. And that was the closest thing that she could find to allyship in her entire life since she was a little child, and what little family she had was ripped from her. That's it. That's the best she could do. So for her, her life didn't hold any kind of meaning or value. She just wanted knowledge. She just wanted truth. She just wanted to understand what the world government was attempting to hide. And that was it. And even that she couldn't accomplish. And so she just accepted her death because what else did she have? And in the scene, Luffy picking her up and carrying her out and forcing her to live when she was ready to die was the first indicator to her that Luffy saw some value in her that no one else, since she was very young, seemed to see, and that she had given up on believing in. Fast forward to when CP9 captures her and Robin doesn't want the Straw Hats to rescue her. Now, I think there are two reasons that Robin didn't want them to follow her. One is that life had proven to her that no one actually valued her life, and that they would end up just betraying her in the end or abandoning her, and there was really no reason to ask them for help because there is no loyalty to her on this earth. But obviously the second reason is because she wanted to protect them. She didn't want them to put themselves in danger for her. While life had proven to her over and over again that she was valueless and that no one would sacrifice themselves for her, I think there was also a piece of her that already really understood this crew and knew what they were about and knew that there was something different about them and knew that there was a possibility that they would actually try. And it was through a preservation of them. It was through a caring that they wouldn't get hurt for her that she pushed them away. So the fact that she saw something different in them and she saw that they might actually try to help her and she didn't want that help says a lot, because she's had this very cutthroat, self-serving survival instinct that she put aside for the sake of other people. Here, Spandam taunts her with the very thing that has haunted her her entire life, with what a burden she is. How could you not be a burden to the Straw Hats? The entire world government is after you. Then he turns to Luffy to solidify what he just said. Do you realize the danger of who you'd be up against? But Luffy cuts through this game and he says, I know very well who Robin's enemy is. He cuts straight through the game Spandam is playing. He cuts straight through the confirmation that he just gave that Robin is nothing but a burden to everyone she comes across. Cuts straight through the threat that's just been issued and instead establishes that only one thing matters in this equation, and that's Robin. And anyone that stands opposed to Robin stands opposed to them. And that's it. That's the only thing that matters. Then he calls for the Sniper King to shoot down that flag, and he declares war, not on the world government, but on Robin's enemy. I think it's also important to note here that Oda has taken the time to establish before this moment how much flags mean to Luffy. He showed us in Drum Island that he values the symbols that they bear and what they reflect. He showed us through Laboon that putting a flag on something matters and it establishes some sort of value and worth. He showed us before this moment that Luffy knew exactly what he was doing, exactly how valuable it was to him to shoot down that flag. They showed Robin that she was worth risking their lives for, that her life was valuable. And whether she wanted to live or not, she was leaving with them. She could decide what she wanted for her future after that, but right now, they were the ones deciding her worth. And to them, her life was worth everything. Yes, shooting down that flag meant removing the obstacle that she was trying to protect them from. She was trying to keep them from making themselves an enemy of the government and putting their lives in danger. And by shooting down the flag and putting themselves in danger by their own choice, they removed that from the equation. But in doing that, they also showed her for the first time, since she was 8, that the obstacle in front of them was not more important than her life. This gave her the freedom to accept that her life actually did hold value. That despite what she's been taught for so many years, she was worth living. And when she screams out that she wants to live, it's right next to the golden snail that represents the Buster Call that destroyed her entire life in the first place. It was in the face of the very thing that did all this damage and began it all that she said, I've decided that my life holds value. And really this entire arc comes full circle in Zoe, when Cat Viper tells Robin that dangerous people will be looking for her since she can read the poneglyphs. And without missing a beat, Robin says that she'll be okay, because she has strong friends who will protect her. And we know, and we will discuss in this video, that Robin is a powerhouse. She's incredibly strong and can handle her own, and she's proven that throughout the entirety of her life up to this point. But it's really valuable that now the way she views her life is not, it doesn't matter that the world government is after me, I can handle myself, which she's proven to be true. But instead, her reaction is, I have a family. I'm protected. I think one reason why this scene, the I want to live scene, is so iconic and powerful to so many people is because a lot of people can relate to the pain of having people in your life tell you that your value is less than you thought it was, and starting to view ourselves from the perspective of the barriers that we can't overcome, feeling that our lives maybe aren't that worthy, and having people fight tooth and nail just to show you your worth, just to declare that your life is valuable, and then actually beginning to accept that in yourself is a really powerful emotional moment that Oda depicted on such a personal level. He did something really special here with Robin's story, and it's something that I think a lot of people can relate to one way or another in a really personal way. Okay, not fixating on that scene so much anymore. We still have more to talk. We're not done. We're still not. Anyway, Robin, when we first met her, was such a closed off character. She was so reserved and, you know, guarded. Robin really opens up when she accepts her nakama. Slowly at first, like in Thriller Bark, when she's fighting alongside of them and she's proving herself to be a valuable asset to their team, but still not participating in their shenanigans, like when Frankie wants to do the transformer thing, I don't remember what he called it, and Robin just responds, I find it embarrassing as a person. Still kind of separating herself from the goofiness that is the crew, but we slowly see her kind of chisel that away as well. She's still reserved because that's her personality, but we start to see her participating in some of the more goofy sides of things, making silly faces, and her very special bond that she has with every single crew member that proves that she really does understand them. Not to mention simple things like understanding the way Luffy thinks when they were in a precarious situation in Punk Hazard, and both Luffy and Robin imagined floating away on Zoro and Usopp's backs. Or when Luffy couldn't remember Marco's name and Robin reminded him of his nickname and then Luffy remembered. I loved that moment. Anytime we get to see her little imaginings of something cute when something terrifying is happening, or we get to hear her say something terrifying to only amplify terrifying situations, or when she sees something horrifying and she calls it cute. I try to keep these videos spoiler free for my anime only friends because I already do the chapter reviews, so these are things that, you know, they can enjoy. So keeping this super vague, but even in this most recent arc, seeing her shed a tear, a happy tear. It's powerful for the obvious reasons of the context around that situation, but also just seeing her go from this removed, shut off, stoic person that tried to keep her emotions at bay, tried to not admit that she wanted to live, and tried to push everybody away, and now seeing her so easily respond emotionally to things that are truly valuable to her, I think they're so important, they're so valuable, and they mean so much to how far her character has come. After a life filled with danger and sadness and rejection, it's just really heartwarming to see her in the middle of the nonsense that is this crew, to see her standing in the background, just smiling and happy to be a part of them. Now let's talk about combat, because this is my bone to pick. Now, in my Sanji video, I defended the fact that Sanji doesn't have a lot of great fights, or at least not as many as a lot of people would like, because his personal journey is not to do with being the biggest, the baddest, the strongest. I won't repeat stuff. There's the video there if you want it. It's true. The same is true for Robin, but allow me to be a hypocrite for a minute, because her devil fruit is so versatile. She has so much experience. She's so powerful, and I just would like to see her in action more. With her devil fruit, she can sprout limbs anywhere she wants, of any size that she wants, to crush her enemies. She can create a net to save her friends. She can create stairs out of a mountain so that she can scale an otherwise unscalable mountain. She can create wings and fly places. She can create eyeballs and be a spy anywhere she wants. She can create clones and essentially make an army for someone to have to face off against. She can grow limbs out of a person's neck and break their neck and just kill them from as far away as she feels like. Her specialty when she was working for Crocodile was an assassin. When is she ever assassinating for us? And I get that the Straw Hats aren't as nefarious as Crocodile's crew was, but I feel like between her and, if she and Usopp would team up and be the assassin and slash spy and the sniper, what couldn't they do? We'll talk about Usopp when that time comes. She, much like Brooke, who I also made a video for, is a support role character. She could be the main character if she wanted to be, but she chooses not to be because her ultimate goal is in understanding history. She now has her nakama that she travels with, and her goal ties into theirs, but at the end of the day, it's about history. It's not about being the biggest and the bestest or about taking the spotlight in a fight. She's more than happy to protect Rebecca and let her dad have the spotlight because this is his fight and it's meaningful to him for his own reasons, and she's happy to be the side character that assists. She's comfortable with that role and it makes sense for her character. She doesn't need to be the one to win the fight. That's not a impulse for her. So it makes sense. From a reader perspective, I just like to see her utilize her extremely versatile skill a little bit more. And she does. She shut Kuma's mouth so he couldn't blast a laser at them. She stopped Zoro from cutting the Kraken because she was smart enough to understand that that would result in bad things. She does a lot of subtle, small things that saves their lives. It's a nitpick from a reader perspective, not from a storytelling perspective, because from a storytelling perspective, it totally makes sense why she chooses to take the background unless she needs to step up. I just want her to step up more. Which brings us to Wano. I'm so happy she had her moment in Wano. And I think that it was wonderful, not just because it was cool, but because it was significant for her as a character. It was valuable to her that she got to make this assist and she got to help him get free where he couldn't. And while her demon form is crazy cool to look at and was an awesome moment just from a reader enjoyment perspective, it was also an awesome moment for her character. I was so proud of her to take this thing, this label that has been put on her, demon child, this thing that was meant to shame her and isolate her and to embrace it, to protect her people. While there were plenty of opportunities for her to have a cool combat moment in Wano without the demon form, I just really appreciate that what Oda decided to do here, he decided to do in a way that made her kind of embrace this label that was meant to harm and destroy, and instead to use it to empower her and to protect her own. I think that's really cool. Anyway, Robin, I'm sure, is about to get a lot more spotlight in this story. Again, keeping it spoiler-free for my anime-only people, but obviously the story is coming to a close, and obviously Robin is a really significant piece of that. Her dream is to expose the truth, to expose the history that the world government has tried to cover up. Many of my favorite stories are about exactly this. It's about embracing history and not trying to erase history in order to create a new kind of world or a new kind of humanity that isn't imposed or that isn't labored by the way the humans, the biases that humans have or the way humans act now. Having some sort of enemy that's trying to erase a piece of humanity or erase a piece of history in order to accomplish some sort of means of creating a different kind of world, and an emphasis on the value of history and the value of remembering. I really love stories that do this, and I've read plenty that do, and Robin's story is that. It's her value for history. It's her value for the truth. It's her value for remembering. I love that getting to the One Piece is essentially impossible without her. There may be stronger, bigger powers in the world that are hoarding the poneglyphs and the red poneglyphs and trying to keep them for themselves, but even then, they can't do anything with those without her, which makes her an incredibly valuable asset to the Straw Hats as well as to the wider world, to the world government, to anyone else that might be seeking out the One Piece. It makes her, she still has a pretty big target on her back. But she's also the one that really grounds this series to its main goal. She's the one that connects our Straw Hats to the wider world, the wider conflict, and the wider goal that Luffy set out to accomplish. It's her that really ties everything together. Not to mention that she probably holds some sort of message or knowledge from Dragon from the time skip era where she was with the Revolutionary Army. I'm sure she holds some sort of information or letter or something, message that she's supposed to pass on to Luffy at some point. She's already made it very clear that she has no need to divulge every single piece of information that she has the moment that she gets it. So I'm sure something's coming with that too. Maybe because Luffy has made it very clear that he's not interested in spoilers. He doesn't want his fun stolen from him, so she's just letting him go along for the ride, letting him have his fun, and when the time comes that he needs the information, she'll give it to him. I don't know. But Robin is a character that is tied in history. History is what made her lose her mother when she was 2, and her mother went out to tried to discover it and tried to understand it. History is what ripped her from the family that she had. History is what isolated her, demonized her, and made her an enemy of the entire world. History is what united her with her Nakama, and history is where the series is going to end, and it's what's going to lead her Nakama to their dreams. And I reckon it's probably what's going to help save the world from the world government. I think that her character is really powerful in her own journey and self-discovery in her self-worth. But it's also that her character is extremely valuable for the series as a whole and for what makes this series so connected and so deep and be able to stretch so wide. I just think she's really valuable, not just in her personal growth, which is really valuable, but in the series as a whole, and I really like her. I've made videos for several characters up to this point. I actually started making these videos even before I caught up with the series. And Robin has been the most difficult one to make one for, and the reason is because I really like digging into characters and finding, you know, the deeper motivation behind them and what makes them tick and why they are the way they are and what value I just like digging into characters and just trying to understand them. And Robin, we know her so well. We've been through so much with her that, and her personal journey, I think, is just really relatable to a lot of people, that I didn't really feel like I had a lot to add to the conversation for her. So think of this more as just an appreciation video for a character that I love more than anything else. Anyway, I would love to hear what you think of Robin. Do you love her too? And if not, why? I post videos every Monday and Friday on this channel, Tuesdays and Thursdays on the second channel if you want to keep up with what I read week to week. I also have week-to-week live streams on my Patreon, as well as just a really cool community of Nakama where we hang out and talk a lot. Check that out if you feel like it, but be sure to continue to chat with me in the comments. Tell me what you love about Robin. I didn't even cover it all. There was more to talk about, but I've been recording for an hour, so I'm gonna stop. But please continue it. Please keep chatting with me in the comments. I'll see you again soon. Bye.